three policy proposals. So these proposals has been discussed on the APNIC Policy SIG mailing list, and today's open policy meeting has made some face-to-face discussion. So let's move to the first proposal. Proposal 124 is presented by Jody. Let's welcome Jody on the stage. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so this proposal is 124. I made already, since I submitted for the first time, I think it was about 1 year ago, 4 versions of it, but never got discussed in a meeting. So the idea of this policy proposal is to clarifying a situation on IPv6 sub-assignments. The problem basically is when the existing policy was drafted or when it has been modified across the years, we didn't consider something that in IPv4 has no difficulties because we are using NAT. And it's the case when, for example, a university get an assignment from, a direct assignment from APNIC, and they are sub-assigning to students. The same is true for the case of a company getting a direct assignment from APNIC and sub-assigning to employees. In the case of IPv4, because most of the time we use NAT, there is not actually a sub-assignment because the addresses that the employees or the students are getting are private IPv4 addresses. But in the case of IPv6, we don't have IPv6 addresses, private IPv6 addresses. We don't have NAT, so we do sub-assignment of real.
Jody, just to break, there is no audio and scripts for remote participations. Can you please check it out?
Okay. So wait.
Just a minute. Gaurav, can you hear now?
No?
Okay. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
So keep going?
Jody, you can continue. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so this is the situation which IPv6 that we are not able to do the same as in IPv4. We need to sub-assign real global IPv6 addresses because we don't have private IPv6, neither NAT, and we don't want to have that. So please don't tell me that the answer is let's make NAT and let's make private addresses in IPv6. We should not do that way. So in addition to that, there are recent developments in IETF which allow, for example, instead of assigning to a device or a server a single IPv6 address, assigning a complete /64 to an interface. So for example, if it's a device and it's running virtual machines, it's able to have addresses, global addresses, IPv6 global addresses for each of the virtual machines, right? The same case applies if I am a small hotspot provider and I am not an LIR, but I am just getting an end user assignment from APNIC, and I am going to assign in IPv4 private addresses with NAT again, but in IPv6 I need to assign global addresses to my users, right? There is one more situation, which is the small change that I did from version 3 to version 4, which is, let's suppose I am a company and I contract a third party to provide security services, including deploying IPv6 cameras in my corporate network, and also the video recorders and whatever is needed to have the surveillance system, okay? So those devices are not my devices, are devices from a third party, But of course, they are in my network, so I need to assign to a third-party device IPv6 addresses. Okay? And this is maybe not a temporary thing in the sense that it's not just a few hours or a few days, as in the case of an employee or a student in the university. It's a matter of this may be a contract for 5 years, for example. So it's not really being something on the spot. It's going to be there with the same addresses for some long period of time. So that's basically the problem statement, and what I am trying to fix with this policy proposal is to change the definition of assigned addresses, which is in section 2.3, which is explicitly prohibiting such assignments, and it states assigned addresses may not be subassigned. So I am just trying to clarify that situation which this text. This situation has been presented also in the other registries, and in fact I made the same policy proposals in all the 5 registries, so it's under discussion. In RIPE, in fact, we had a previous policy proposal that accepted part of this, but I am still submitting, or I have already submitted a new version to RIPE, even if it reached consensus, because the actual proposal in RIPE, or the actual policy in RIPE, allows a single address, but not a complete /64 and so on. Okay, so there are cases which are still not well covered in the actual policy in RIPE. So I make this picture trying to explain how I am responding to all the cases. So as you can guess, each color makes an explanation of what is in each part of the sentence. So my suggestion is in the actual section 2.2.3, which is assigned address space, after the existing text, which I am not changing, which says assigned address space is address space that is delegated to an LIR or end user for a specific use within the internet infrastructure they operate. Assignments must only be made for specific documented purposes and may not be subassigned. That's the question, the last 2 words that I am trying to change. So my proposed text is providing addressing space to third-party devices, including addresses for point-to-point links and or non-permanently providing addressing space to third parties for use on a network managed and operated by the segment holder shall not be considered a subassignment. The provision of addressing space for permanent or semi-permanent connectivity such as broadband services is still considered a subassignment. So let me try to explain each part of this text. The first part that we have in yellow, which is providing addressing space to third-party devices, is covering the problem of a subcontractor with devices sitting in the holder's network, which may be a long-term contract. Okay, so that's easy. Then there may be also the case for point-to-point links, because typically point-to-point links are something permanent or a long-term thing. It's not something that you set up a point-to-point link for a few hours and you drop it. Normally it's long time. And then the other text is and or non-permanently providing addresses space to third parties. This is covering the case of a student, visitor in a hotspot, or a company, employee, and so on. Because in this case, it's a temporary thing. I don't want to use a temporary thing because we will need to go into define how much is temporary, so I say non-permanently to avoid that, going into that definition. And this is bring your own device, employee, visitor, etc. And then, of course, we want to have the specific reminder that broadband services should not use an end-user assignment. They should go to become an LIR. There was, in the last couple of days, discussion in the mailing list. Basically, it's Owen DeLong saying, hey, this is grammatically incorrect. Maybe he's right. I am not, as most of you, English native speaker. I think even if there are small changes in the text, when we go for the final, if we reach consensus, when we go for the final text, I think that's something that the PDP allows to change. I mean, it's not changing the goal or the meaning of the proposal, it's changing how we say it in a perfect English. And in fact, I have made a small, very, very small change that I think is grammatically correct, which is where we are saying now, let me go back, providing addressing space to third-party devices, we just need to say providing addresses to third-party devices, and so on. So they are small grammar changes that I think make technically correct in English. Anyway, this is something that probably APNIC staff could help here, having an English native speaker to correct that thing. But the end of the history is we don't want to change the definition if we do those small changes, okay? And I think that's okay according to the PDP. Advantages of the proposal, well, fulfilling the objective that I am aiming to, and making sure that something that today maybe universities that are not following the policy because they should not sub-assign, and they are actually doing for students, or people that has visitors or employees using the addresses in their corporate network, they are actually against the policy. So we are correcting the situation with this. I don't see disadvantages, and I don't think there is an impact on resource holders. The impact is a positive one in the sense that they are not breaking the existing policy. I think, I am not sure if we put in the website the links to the existing policies in other regions like in RIPE and so on, but it doesn't matter too much. And I think that's it. I think that was my slide, yes. Let me go back in case somebody want to read or have questions to the proposed text.
Okay, thanks, Jody. Now we welcome any comments and suggestions for this proposal. We open the mic. Seja, welcome.
Sanjay from APNIC. If this, so I'm neither for or against the proposal, of course. If this proposal gets consensus, the way the APNIC Secretariat can implement this is either update the policy document or update the guideline, IPv6 guideline document, which we tend to use for more technical, examples, if we want more examples, and it's easier to change as well. You don't need to always go through the policy proposal to just fix wordings in the guidelines, which I think what happened with RIPE is you put it in the policy document, it's not exactly correct, and then you have to submit another proposal to update it again. Do you have a strong opinion either or, whether it must be in the policy document, or are you okay with it going to guideline document?
I really think this is a policy change. I really think if you are somebody reading the policies, you not necessarily go to the guidelines, because if the policy text is clear, you are just okay with that. So I think it's much easier to go to the policy text. If you, in addition to that, want to clarify that in the guidelines, I am okay with that, but I really think this is a policy change.
So there needs to be something in the policy itself, and we can add something in the guideline.
Yeah.
All right.
So what I am proposing is this text, or the grammatically correct version of this text, after this paragraph. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any comments? Because they have two paragraphs for this proposal, and to define who's the sub-assignment, who is not a sub-assignment. Is it clear for all community to know this proposal?
I think can you see the policy proposal text in the screen actually, so that you can actually find what changes actually being added there, so that I think it'll be easier for.
Sorry, I had the text in the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the text, but it's not what presently there is written in the proposal, and you are adding something actually along with it, right? So.
Yeah, we are adding these two paragraphs.
Along with the.
This is the existing text.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I am adding these two paragraphs to the actual text.
Just to make it compliant with the actual situation, right? So any comment? Any feedback from anyone? Okay, fine. So I think we can go for a consensus call.
Okay. So it's make the consensus call, and
first, can you ask the remote participant to log into Confer, and you can.
And please, community can log in the Confer, and you can the confer.apnic.net. Yeah, you can log in the Confer and. Put your opinion on the Confer remotely. And so you wait a moment, and so because based on the APNIC PTP requirement, the community to reach consensus or general agreement on the proposal before it can proceed. Okay. Okay, so let's make the consensus call. So if you strongly support the proposal, please put your hands up. Strongly support. It's fine. If you support the proposal, please put your hands up. Support. Okay, thanks. If you are neutral about the proposal, put your hands up. Neutral. Okay, put your hands down. And if you oppose to the proposal, please put your hands up. Oppose. Okay, thanks. Yeah. If you strongly oppose to the proposal, please put your hands up. Strongly oppose. Okay, thanks. Yeah. So based on the most we know.
So what can see that most of the people are neutral about that. They are not feeling the need for change or not supporting or opposing. So I think probably we're still not facing the problem yet, what we're predicting. So
well, you have the problem, but the people is not realizing, and APNIC is not checking if somebody is supersigning. That's the situation.
But anyway, what do you feel that we didn't reach consensus at this moment? So we can wait, or we can come up with more clarification so that we can move forward with the proposal. Thank you very much, Jordi. And thank you, Shigang. So I think you should stay here because we'll be talking about the next policy proposal, and it is also proposed by Jordi. There's Prop 125, validation of abused mailbox and other IIT emails. We have received two proposals from Jordi Martinez and Apta Siddiqui on similar topics. So eventually they agreed to come up with a joint proposal. Apta, are you here?
Yeah.
So if you want to join.
I guess you want to come here as well.
So Jody can present, and I'll just sit there. There's not enough space to.
Anyway, stay nearby.
Yeah, it's a joint proposal. So we worked on the text together. So yep, he can present. I'm just sitting right there.
Okay. Thank you, Jody. Floor is yours.
Okay, so as I was just explaining, the thing with this proposal is that almost in a matter of minutes, after and myself sent 2 proposals for the same thing, right? So of course the secretariat and the chairs asked us, can you work together in a joint version? And we did that in a matter of a couple of days, I think, and it's the other presentation. And that's the text that we have right now is jointly done by both of us. Okay, so proposal 125, validation of abuse mailbox and other IRT. What is the problem? There is a mandatory IRT references since several years ago. So that means it's mandatory to register an incident response team object for each resource. However, in many cases, this information is out of date, or nobody's responding to that mailbox, or is bouncing, or nobody's even reading that. So it's not really that much useful if you have an object that is not up to date, right? So what we are trying to do, and again, I have a similar policy proposal in most of the regions. I have it in LACNIC, in APNIC, and in RIPE is still not submitted, but I am still discussing with the co-chairs of the responsible working group. What we are trying to do is to make sure that those objects are verified by the registry, by APNIC in this case. So yeah, we all agree that internet is about cooperation, but in many cases, just cooperation is not sufficient to keep with challenges like abuse experiences. So what we are suggesting is the registry APNIC to actually periodically review that those objects and make sure that they are working. I already mentioned this, so let me skip to the next one. So I am not going to read all the text. We have put in the policy in the slides all the text of the policy proposal, so you can read it if you have not already done with the actual policy document or policy proposal document. So I am going to just make a summary of each of the sections, right? So the first section of our policy proposal is describing what is the mailbox, the abuse mailbox. And we are also describing that this mailbox must have at some point a manual intervention by the recipient. So we want to make sure is that this mailbox is not filtered, because sometimes what happens is that you are reporting spam to an ISP, and because you put as an attachment the headers or the spam email, it gets rejected because it's detected as spam. So it means that it's not useful to have an incident response email contact if that email is not able to reach or to get the information about the abuse case, right? So it should not be filtered and should be manually processed at some time. It's good to have something like an automated response that say, hey, have you sent the logs? If you have not sent the logs, please do it now, because otherwise Google will not process your request. That's fine, an automated message. But somebody really needs to pay attention manually. The other problem that sometimes we find is you are getting directed to a form, and let's suppose every ISP in the world has a different form. How come a small ISP or even a big one can fill the form, which is different for every ISP in the world for each abuse case. So that's the reason we believe this requires a manual processing. It would be nice to have a standard way to do that in ITF, but we don't have it. So we have another way that makes sure that at some point there will be some manual processing by that, okay? So we don't want to define, because this is up to the operational decision of the APNIC staff, we don't want to define how to do that verification of the mailboxes, okay? But we want to make sure that that verification of the mailboxes follows at least some objectives. And the objectives that we are defining is that it's a simple process, that warranties, it works, that allows the help desk that deal with abuse records to verify that this request is actually coming from APNIC and is not a fake email for a bot or something, so they can be safe that they are responding to a verification done by APNIC. The process should verify that is not fully automated process, should confirm that the people receiving the email is up to date with the policy, so they know that they should really respond to that email and verify that this is following the policy terms. We believe that 15 days for responding to that is sufficient. So my aim in other regions is just 2 working days. Here we relaxed it a little bit and we go to 15 days. And that there is also a way to escalate in case there is not a response, okay? So basically what we are asking APNIC is to validate not less than once every 6 months, so it's twice a year, that is working. And if APNIC believes that it's necessary additional checking, they can also do that, but at a minimum twice per year. And then we define the escalation procedure, and also we define that there must be an email where any ISP in the world, when they are not getting responses from the abuse contact, they might able to escalate to APNIC, so APNIC verify that that contact is working or not. So, for example, if APNIC did a verification today and tomorrow I am out of the company, nobody changed the email, and the day after there is an abuse case, it will take 6 months for APNIC to verify that again. So this way we provide a fallback process for the people that get abused to recover from that situation, right? And I think that's it, in short, the proposal. Then we have, as I mentioned, an example and additional information about what we suggest, like, for example, in other regions, this object is referred as abuse C, so we believe it will be good for APNIC to publish that in bot forms. That's an automated process, so that don't mean any extra work or overhead. And we also recommend the NIRs to implement something similar. So I don't know exactly the arrangements between each NIR and APNIC, but I guess it's good to remind them that they should follow the same policy, so just in case. And we have an example of a possible validation procedure. We have worked on this procedure to make sure that it's not getting abuse itself, okay? So just to make sure that people, for example, is not responding to emails from APNIC, but not from others, and things like that. So we try to avoid as much as possible tricks from the bad guys, because for the good guys, this is okay. This is wonderful for everybody. But of course, we need to make sure that if somebody is an APNIC member and they are just reselling their resources for spamming or things like that, they will not make a trick with the policy to avoid complying with that. And I think that's it basically. Questions?
Thank you, Jordi. Aftab Siddiqui here. I just need to provide a few more statistics which I received from Secretariat. They are 4 weeks old, so probably there will be some changes. There are around 7,277 APNIC accounts. All of them have IRT objects created. It was confirmed by APNIC Secretariat. They receive around 20% bounce back emails from billing account, which they verify as per their local process. So if you are getting a 20% bounce back on the billing account, you can just imagine how many bounce back you receive on IRT objects. I've done some testing on this, and you receive, and my statistics suggest that you receive around 50 to 60% bounces on the IRT objects abuse mailbox. But I cannot send emails to 7,000 accounts, so it's not possible. So I have done it for less than 100, otherwise I'll be blocked for spamming. And in case of NIRs, IDNIC are creating an IRT objects for their members. All other NIRs use their own generic IRT for their members. This is the update. If other NIRs can update, it would be great.
Thank you, Aftab.
I just reminded something that I guess is very important also. During the discussion with the Secretariat, they told us that there is already an ongoing work for some kind of verification. So it's somehow aligned with the goal of the proposal. Maybe somebody from the staff want to comment about that? I think that's key, that the community know that there is already some work on this direction. So we are not creating a conflict. On the other way around, we are going in the same direction.
Yeah, I would like to add on exactly the same point. Thank you, Jordi, for mentioning it. As per the update we received from APNIC Secretariat is they are already planning to do something like this, but the only difference is that they will be sending emails for verification to members and non-members to their corporate and tech accounts, not to the IRT objects. And this is the only difference. We are suggesting that it should be the IRT object. If they want to send it to the other email accounts, that's fine. If they can clarify, that would be great.
Thank you, Aftab. Kenny Huang, you to make some comments?
Sorry. Kenny Huang, Executive Council member of APNIC, also speaking in my personal capacity. And first of all, thank you, Jordi, for proposing such a very scientific approach to resolving the issue as we have today. And second, just as some reminder, I'm going to make a presentation on the Treasury report this afternoon. That I will explain a little bit detail about what's the situation for APNIC membership, including the closed account. The major reason for closing account is because the email cannot reach them successfully, or they cannot respond to the email in the required period of time. So if they cannot manage the APNIC membership in such a decent way, I wonder how can they manage the abuse account in a more reactive way. And the final thing is, even we can send an email to the destination account, it doesn't mean they will take responsive action according to what we request for. Either they are responsive in machine or responsive by human. The point is we need someone to take action to follow up the issue. I think that's the proposal you're talking about, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Adam, you want to say something?
Good morning, Adam Gosling from APNIC staff. Just to answer the question about what we're building at the moment, it's a verification system. It's a voluntary verification system. We'll email all of the corporate and technical contacts that we have about 2 months before their account renewal, so that's once per year, inviting them to go through a step-by-step process to verify. So we say, is this correct? So that means that we don't email any other addresses other than the corporate and technicals, so we can we'll get bounce backs for those and we can follow them up. But when it gets to the IRTs or the other contacts in there, that's on their own recognizance. I can't think of another way to say it. But so it's verification, not validation. And so there would be, if someone verifies an incorrect one, I guess that does two things. It could still be incorrect, but verified. And there's no requirement for them to respond because we haven't tested it. So it is a slightly different thing. I hope that makes sense. I didn't explain it very well.
But I guess it's clear that it's complementary.
I actually kind of think it's a different thing. So the things covered by the verification process are our internal corporate contacts for billing, technical and corporate contacts. Those aren't in the WHOIS, but then the other things are in the WHOIS, their org ID, the IRT objects, and ultimately the person and role objects. And that's going to be done this year sometime.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Mr. Brajesh.
Thank you, Brajesh Jain here. I just wanted to sort of get suggestion from the authors. In case of no response, even after 15 days, what should be done? Is there any thought process on that? Or in case of no response, what is to be done?
There is an automatic escalation, so APNIC can verify through the other contacts what is going on.
So even after that, if it fails, then if that second verification fails, what we are suggesting is that, let me go to the text. I don't want to say something wrong.
Block my APNIC.
Block my APNIC.
Block.
Yes. Access to my APNIC.
What is it? Yeah, here. In case there is no response from all the email addresses associated with the IRT object, then mark the IRT object invalid and block access to my APNIC and use other means to contact the member, be a billing contact, corporate contact, etc., etc.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, if you all remember, when IRT object became a mandatory thing, and after that, whenever you logged into my APNIC, it was some kind of a blocked access. You couldn't do anything unless you create an IRT object. So this is what we are suggesting. So saying that it will be blocked means it will be blocked for any other thing unless you verify your contact details. So it has been done by APNIC in the past, so we are not suggesting something new. And this is what we have suggested.
Thanks. Mr. Peng?
Yeah, Guang Liang Peng from APNIC Secretary. I just want to clarify, is this proposal about the verify the email is only applied to the IRT object, right?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any more feedback? Or from remote participants? I will ask the Secretariat that is there any challenge in implementing this actually, or what time frame we can look for, anything, any feedback from the Secretariat?
This may require some development, I think, so more likely 6 months rather than 3 months. Adam? Yeah.
Okay, so correcting abuse contact and also the correcting the WHOIS database is a long discussion in many areas, and we heard that in Arian is also something is being discussed. So, and thanks Aftab and Jody for proposing that. So if there is no more comments, no questions, I'll request the remote participants to log in to confer for the consensus process. Oh, there is a comment, please.
This is Dong Lee, and I'm a youth fellow for this time. So according to the slides, there is a like you mentioned that the process must not be automations, but as the email, there's tons of the emails sent and received every single day. So is there any exact reason why you don't want to make it automated? Because like as a viewpoint of the controlling the database or the email systems, I think automation can be one of the options to make more complex and convenient.
The thing is, if you make it only fully automated, the experience shows it's not working. So you can automate somehow the system, but at the end, at some point, somebody should manually check what is going on. So for example, you can say, okay, every time you get an email, you check that there is a log. And this can be fully automated. And if there is not a log, or it looks like there is not a log, instead of sending that to the staff to check it, you send back to the one that sent the abuse report, telling him, unless you provide a log, we will not pay attention to your email. Okay?
Right.
So the thing is to avoid just an fully automated process and no manual intervention. Because which abuse, if you don't have a manual intervention, you cannot make it work. There is no way. Because the abuse can be for spam, for misusage of IP addresses. It can be so many things that it's really, really, really difficult that can be fully automated. So at some point, there should be some manual intervention.
Okay, thank you, Francis.
And just for responding to your question, is we based this recommendation on certain statistics we got. Is again, the sample size is very small, so we cannot say that this is the common practice. Every time you send an abuse report, you get a ticket. Even if you respond to that, you again get a ticket. Even you respond to that, again you get a ticket. So you keep on getting. I have like 10 instances of that from across the region where I was just getting ticket numbers without any resolution. So it is an automated process. It is going to their ticketing system, but not doing anything after that. And in one instances, tickets were opened and closed by itself within the time span of 5 minutes. So of course, something is happening automated quite aggressively. So it was based on that, those statistics. And again, these are recommendations. We are not setting things on stone. So these are recommendations. We recommend it should be like this. Because we cannot enforce a service provider to do something. So it's just a recommendation that it should be done in this way.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you very much. Sanjay, you want to make any comment?
Yes, just again, a question about how we document this in the policy. Some of the wording really, really specific. If this gets consensus, are you open to have a conversation with the APNIC staff to how we, edit the policy document accordingly without going into, too prescriptive? That's what I worry is if we get too prescriptive, then it binds us. So, are you okay if we discuss?
I guess if this policy proposal gets consensus, it will be good to develop guidelines as you have for other policy proposals.
Yeah.
And I guess we are happy all to contribute to that, of course.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jin Hyun-jo from KLE. I don't have a comment, just questions on the proposal. I have been searched several years, and well, you are proposing some ILT object to mandate response. My questions are: first one is there any similar policy in other regional registration authority? That is the first one. The second one is you mentioned that if there is no actions within 15 days, the account or email will be blocked. In that case, on my understanding, well, in case of some additional NIR will have some more than other some ISPs or IP owners have much more difficulties because many of some of the user request, response requests will be forwarded to the NIL or some big IP owners. In case of that, well, some IP owners may not able to respond within 15 days. They also contact some other constituents or some customers to take actions. However, they may not have such some resources. It is not the problem of the NIL or big IP owners issues. However, if there is no response from such cases, how will you respond to such a case? Thank you.
Okay. The first question, there is an automatic validation that was approved in RIPE, I think about 1 year ago. It's not so sophisticated, let's say, like this one, but there is that one. And in 18, I don't remember right now what is the details, but there is a policy about point of contact validation, which I think is trying to do something similar to this one. In LACNIC, APNIC, I have proposals for that, but still nothing got consensus. In LACNIC, it was presented 1 year ago. It didn't got consensus. I am presenting in 2 weeks again. In APNIC, I submitted the policy proposal just 2 weeks ago, so it's on the works. Regarding your second question, what we are saying is that the holder of the addresses need to respond in less than 15 days, and then he has additional 15 days. But what we are not saying is that he needs to solve the problem in 15 days. I think it should be in that time as well, but I know that's difficult because if you are a victim of abuse and it takes to the ISP holder of the IP addresses that are being used for the abuse 1 year to solve it, you may be needing to filtering that, or not just in 1 year, in 2 days or 3 days. So that's a different thing. We are not saying here, you must solve the problem in 15 days. You need to respond. You need to say, I am working on it, okay? But not really, we are not really saying you need to fix the problem immediately or anything like that. But you at least need to respond.
Well, in case of me, I have many years to work in the CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team. The response means solving some problem. I think, I'm not sure what you are saying, however, anyhow, well, there will be some individual IP users. That user will not have any some ILT object. Maybe ISP will be the ILT contact. ISPs are trying to, that specific ISP will try to contact that individual IP user. However, it is not possible. How will you respond?
But the response must be from the holder, not the user. So that's not part of the policy proposal. It's the customer of APNIC, to say in some way, who must respond, not the end user. So if you have a broadband user that is creating the abuse problem, we are not saying the user need to respond. It's the ISP that need to respond, and usually ISPs have contracts with customers that say, if you misabuse our resources, we will disconnect you. So that's a decision of the ISP. We are not saying anything about that.
Okay, yeah. Well, sir, I understand your answer. However, still, I have some reservation or some concerns. In case of some large block IP owners will experience difficult times, as I mentioned earlier. Well, this will give some more time to respond. Well, you are saying maybe 30 days.
I think, Jiru, if I interrupt that, actually,
sorry, Chair, I just need to interrupt here. You're not understanding the purpose of this policy. The purpose of the policy is just to validate the whois. That's it. And the registry has one job. They have to do it nicely. That's it.
I understand that you're from the SAT community, so you're trying to resolve the problem. We are actually one step behind you. We are just trying to fix that the abuse contact is correct, so that somebody wants to contact him, can contact him. So you're going to the next level. So if you can do that, it would be good, but still we are in the earlier stage. Thank you very much, Jinu.
Yeah.
So I think we are again running out of time, so I'll move for consensus. I hope that the remote participants are already in confer. So those who are in strong support of this policy for validation of this abuse contacts, those that are strongly supporting this proposal, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, if you support the proposal, please put your hand up. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, if you're neutral about the proposal, you can raise your hand now. Okay. Thank you very much. So, if anyone opposes the proposal, please put your hand up. I'll count to 6 downwards. Thank you. If you strongly oppose the proposal, please put your hand up now. Thank you very much. So I think we have got the feedback from the community, from the remote participants, and I presume we have reached consensus for these proposals. I think probably you need to work with Secretariat for more detailed implementation plan, how we can move forward. And the proposal reached consensus. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Octave, and thank you very much, Jordi. So this is the last agenda of the policy meeting today, that is Prop 126. Again, is Jordi Martinez about PDP update, the policy development process update. So in Policy SIG, we not only develop policy based on policy, based on PDP, but we can actually improve PDP if necessary, and there is a policy proposal from Jordi. And I just like to put my other hat as a committee member now, because I think I might have some comments on that. So I will ask my co-chair, Barton, to continue as chair, and I'll go to the...
Is this working? Yeah.
Audience, the committee. Thank you.
Okay, so this is proposal 126. The idea of this policy proposal is that today the decision process in the PDP in this region is based on the consensus only with the people in the room, right? What that means, I don't know how much people is here, maybe 200, 300 people, but is this a real representation of the community? Because the PDP is made for the community. The proposals are for the community, not just for the people that is able to cover their traveling expenses to the meetings, right? So why we discuss the policy proposals in the list, and we don't allow the people in the list to also say, I am for or against the proposal. So what happens actually is that only if the proposal reach consensus here, they will be able to say in the list, no, we don't like that. but not in the other way around. So if the proposal don't reach consensus here, it may be that all the rest of the community is in favor of the proposal. So how we measure the consensus in that situation? They are not able because they are already blocked because here the decision was no consensus. So that's what I am trying to correct. I believe that we should have a shorter process. We should have not just 4 weeks in anticipation to the meetings. I think if the people today is able to read emails every day, they can think about that in a few days, and they need to have the same right. They should not be discriminated because they are not able to come to the meetings, okay? We had this situation in LACNIC, and in the previous LACNIC meeting, I got consensus in a similar policy proposal, which is basically saying the consensus will be measured in both in the meeting and in the mailing list, not just in the meeting. In other regions, for example in RIPE, we measure the consensus only in the list. Even we don't care what happens in the meeting. The important thing is the decision in the list. In the IETF, we reach consensus on standards in the mailing list, not in the meetings. So those are examples of something that can be achieved, and it's a more inclusive process, right? So that's basically, in short. I have probably many slides talking about that, but I think I skipped over the slides. And if you want to read about the different changes, the PDP right now has 5 steps. So I am modifying 3 of those steps, or suggesting a modification of 3 of those steps. The first one is step 1, which is discussion before the OPM. What I did in the slides, so it's easy to see, is I just put in red the text that get changed. So to your left, you have the actual text. To the right, you have how will be the text if this proposal or this part of the proposal gets consensus. So in the step 1, what I am doing is changing the 1 week time, the 4 weeks time, which is the actual text, to just 1 week. In the list, there were some comments that in some of the NIRs, you translate the text to the local language, and then you discuss, and then you come back here. But because it's not longer just here, is the list, I think 1 week is enough. But if the community believes that instead of 1 week should be something in the middle, maybe 2 weeks, I am happy with that. But my actual proposal is, let's go for 1 week. Then what I am doing here is the last sentence of the actual text that says the proposal will need to be resubmitted in time for the following meeting if the author wishes to pursue the proposal. I am deleting that because it don't make any more sense in this context, okay? So that will be the first change. We will go back later once I finish explaining all of them to this slide. The second change in the step number 2 is actually we have a text that says consensus must be reached first at the 6th session and afterwards at the member meeting. What I am suggesting here is if the policy is for the community, why the member meeting need to reach again consensus if they are already here in this room? Okay, so it's like we do double consensus among more or less the same group of people, and still we exclude the people that is not able to travel. And in addition to that, every policy proposal that gets consensus has a last call in the list. So any member that is not happy can raise his concerns in the list in the last call. And furthermore, every policy proposal need to be ratified by the EC, and the EC is selected by the members. So that means that it's like we do 3 or 4 times the same. Why? So what I am suggesting is determine consensus in the meeting and in the mailing list. What that means basically is that now co-chairs need to decide on consensus in 1 minute after the proposal has been presented, which is not good, because they need to consider the comments in the mailing list. So here, what I am saying, in the case of APNIC, for example, we decided a 2 weeks period. I didn't want it here to say how much time, but I really think that if we have a call for consensus here, the chairs will have his mind about the feeling of the room, but then they will look also into the list to take a final decision. That's what I am suggesting, okay? The third change is in step 3, which says proposals that have reached consensus at the OPM and AAM. It's the same in the previous step, so basically it's the same, but it's duplicated text in both steps, right? So, and then we have the last call in the list and so on. I am not changing that. I am not changing step 4. I am not changing step 5, so those remain the same. So again, the EC, which is a representation of the members, still have a final point of decision. So if any policy proposal reaches consensus but is really bad for the community or the membership, they can still block it, okay? And then we don't have right now an appeals process. So what happens if the chairs confabulate and take the wrong decision, or they don't realize that something is broken and they accept a consensus where there is not? So what I am suggesting is, in case of disagreement during the process, any member of the community must initially bring the matter to the mailing list for consideration by the chairs, and if those considerations by the chairs or he believes the chairs have somehow violated the process or erred in their decision, they may bring also the question to the EC. That's a very, very simple appeal process, which I think is a safe key, let's say, for the community. And I think that's it. I think with that I am really fulfilling the objective of my proposal, which is making the process more inclusive, not discriminating the people that cannot come, and really making sure that the decision is taken in both the list and the meeting, the people here present in the meeting. And that's it. Questions?
I just want to clarify a point for your first point. We do take into account the mailing list opinions, and this is why the 4 weeks is needed, because when you submit your proposal to the APNIC, they, at the same time that we chair receive the proposal, they verify that it will not break anything if it's implemented. So they need a bit of time for that. And so when we push the proposal on the mailing list, we expect, and most of the time we do get, comments, supports, oppositions. Like for your previous proposal, the 125, we had a support on the mailing list, and we do take that into account every time. It's a gauging system for the consensus. So we use the mailing list, first one, then we use the room and the confer as well. And with the mixture of all three, we then decide. It takes less than a minute because we already know if it reached consensus on the mailing list. It's easy to see if it's reached consensus in the room and on confer as well. I must not express my opinion, but I just wanted to make sure.
Let me say something. I know that this is that way. We have that response also from the APNIC co-chairs, but it's not in the PDP. So it's not better to have the PDP clarifying that instead of having something that you do against the PDP, Because if you do that right now, you are working against the PDP, if we read it strictly. So it's not better to clarify that?
So we've got a few people at the mic. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Barton. Simon from Fibertome, giving my opinion from my own capacity. Whole PDP process, if you see, Jordi, in all steps, very few people are getting salary from the RIR. Most of the people are doing this one as a voluntarily, right? Who are coming here, killing their own time and giving their valuable time to this community. So bringing down to this for a 1 week, I think that will not make this whole process feasible. First of all, it comes to the mailing list. Then the comments are coming from the community. Sometimes it's coming from a single person. Sometimes, like we see in the last 118, it comes from the Japan community, right? So they have to sit together, then they have to accumulate the response and then come. So I think you have proposed 3. The first one I'm opposing, it should be 4 weeks. Thank you.
So you agree with the rest, but not the first one, which is 1 week time. Thank you. Just to clarify, I asked the chairs if that's possible, and they told me yes. We are going to ask consensus for every change because they are independent. So that will make easy to adopt at least part of the proposal, right?
Okay, Kenny Huang, Executive Council member of APNIC. I'm here because as a previous Policy SIG chair for quite some time, I probably manage more than 50% of APNIC policy under current policy framework. And that's why I truly realize how practical and how feasible our current PDP is. But I do not against your proposal, but just try to inform you. Basically, it's not visible or not, but basically you try to replicate some model in working in other constituency in the Asia-Pacific region, especially for APNIC region. We do require a lot of input from our community members, especially they are pretty much familiar with the current practice we have. Thank you.
Brajesh Jain here. Now, first one, changing time 4 weeks to 1 week may not be practical, especially in cases where the community needs to consult. My second part is a comment saying that in the open policy meeting, persons are less. But these representatives who are coming, they are expected to bring the sense of the community back home. My third point, and that is a question to the proposer, is that in case of difference in the consensus in the mailing list versus in the OPM, what will prevail? We had a similar discussions in the earlier confer versus OPM. So if you have any suggestion that in case there is a difference, which one will prevail? And the last part, on the appeals part, there has to be a very careful wordings and on specific cases, because otherwise there may be many frivolous appeals jeopardizing the whole system. Thank you.
Well, I don't think there will be many appeals, starting from the last question. I think actually it has never happened in any registry, and in all the registries we have some kind of appeal process. But I don't think that's going to happen. And the other point that you somehow made a question was, let me remember, your previous point before the appeals was, it got out of my mind right now. Oh, yeah, I got it.
Consensus difference in
different
the mailing
consensus
list
in the mailing list and in the meeting.
versus the meeting.
Yeah. The thing is, I am not saying here if one is a higher level or of the other one. So it's up to the chairs to decide if the combination of both the mailing list and the meeting, there is consensus or not. Because what happens here is that most of the time the people confuse consensus with hands up. Consensus is not counting votes. Consensus is the proposal in general looks well, more or less well, let's say, for the majority of the community, and there is not a strong reason to oppose to that. That's consensus, okay? There is, I don't remember the RFC number, but there is an RFC in ITF that describes very well what is consensus. I got this question already from somebody else from the community 2 days ago, and I sent him the description of consensus that I summarized for the APNIC meeting when we had that discussion. And in fact, we put that description of consensus in our policy proposal in APNIC. I can send it later to the list if that's helpful. But really, I think you are having that question because you believe that if in the list you have more yes than no, and in the meeting is in the other way. No, it's not the number of yes or not. It's a different thing. That's more difficult for them, but that's what they are actually doing, and they are doing very well. They are not counting hands. They are taking a decision based on the feeling of the room, and what I am saying is take a decision based on the feeling on the room and the mailing list, and they confirm they are doing already, but it's not in the process. So let's make the process crystal clear.
Okay, so long as the chairs are clear, I'm okay.
Craig, please. Craig Ng, APNIC General Counsel. I'm making, I guess I'm clarifying one point, not making a submission. In relation to the appeal process, you provide a 4-week response time from the Executive Council. I don't know how many people in this room know that the Executive Council meets face-to-face 4 times a year. The workload is quite significant, and a 4-week response time really out of sync with the APNIC meeting may cause a logistical issue. I'm not making a submission, but I just want you to be aware that there could be a potential issue relating to that.
I understand that, but I guess that you use internet for other meetings if necessary. So if there is such situation, such an appeal, it's not something that the EC can communicate by email and even make a call for deciding about that?
Of course you could. I'm not unaware of the ability to communicate through electronic means.
Right.
The APNIC Executive Council decided some time ago specifically to meet face-to-face because in relation to important matters, a face-to-face meeting and ability to communicate face-to-face is a lot more effective. And the issue really about off-program meeting relating to what potentially could be frivolous complaint imposes, I think, some significant obligation. I simply want to raise that. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Executive Council. I'm just simply raising it as a potential issue for your awareness.
Right, thank you. Anyway, I must say that if the community believes that this, instead of 30 days or whatever, need to be, for example, for the next AC meeting, it's easy to change the text to adjust to that.
Hi, Jody, Aftab Siddiqui. I would like to comment on a few things. Step number 1, which you said, like, it should be 1 week. I can give you a background. In the Asia Pacific region, we have probably the highest diversity in terms of languages. And when a policy is proposed on the mailing list, a lot of communities take that policy back into the community, translate it into their own language, and then discuss it locally and come up with a summarized answer, respond back. It takes time. So we should respect that and we should honor it. And it is very important. And making it 1 week is too aggressive. 4 weeks is still, I mean, everyone has a day job. We respond whenever we have time. We all take it seriously, but still it takes time. So 4 weeks time is much more feasible than 1 week. So, and on the topic of, nobody discussed that, that repeating the consensus in the AMM. For me, it's kind of a repetitive task, but it should be done in a manner that all the members are aware of the policies discussed in the Policy SIG, because not all members attend the Policy SIG. So it should be done. There should be some manner, but I am also against the consensus in the AMM. So there should be a procedure where they can say, if you have any concern or if you have any objection, you can say it now. There are multiple open mics in the AMM. You can say it anytime. But having a consensus, once again, in the AMM is totally unnecessary. And the last point on the appeal, it is a good idea. And I would suggest, I'm just talking from my own experience chairing another committee, ASOAC, we have a provision of calling an emergency meeting. I think EC can do that as well. So it's not very difficult. So let's not go into the details of what EC is doing and can do. Let's stick to our text. They should follow up on the basis of what comes from the policy. So I support this proposal, except step 1.
In fact, with the comments that I am getting, I am clear right now that I am not going to call to consensus on this step 1, okay? So we will keep the actual text, just not to waste more time here. I will propose to keep this without changes and look also only for the changes in step 2 and step 3 and the appeal, okay? Just to make it easy, the next steps for the people in the room.
This is Shubham Savir with the Community Hack from Forward Home. So I'll echo with Aftab that the 4 weeks is not realistic for our region actually. So 1 week, sorry, but it should be 4 weeks. I feel we don't need to change that. And I also agree with Aftab regarding the second consensus in the AMM that. But there should be reporting there, and people should know, and people can make their comments on that. And it's again going back to mail list for further comment period, and eventually it endorsed by the EC, so it's going to EC again. So second consensus doesn't make that much sense to me, but we must discuss there so that the community, those who are not attending here, they know at least that what policy process discussed. So like updating any other sessions, so update should be there, but probably that consensus is not necessarily there. And the third one, I just forgot. Okay, this is the decision of OPM we have discussed already. And the appeal procedure, I don't know, Craig already mentioned that it is difficult or not, but I think there should be a written way of appealing if there is any complaint or something, and I also support that. Thank you very much.
Alejandro Guzman from LACNIC board. I want to share that, as Jordi mentioned, and we had a very long discussion about the same policy in our last LACNIC meeting. It was like more than 2 hours, I think, about this. I think the center of the discussion was about what consensus is, what Jordi mentioned, and that is that we have to remove the kind of democratic process of this, because the policy making process is not a democratic process, it's a process made by consensus that is different. So if 80% of the people thinks that a policy should pass, but that policy is going to break something, is going to cause harm or something, it shouldn't pass even if 80% of the people is supporting it. So that's why consensus, and to understand that part, is key to make the process smoother. So if only one person has a concern about the policy but is well sustained and shows that the policy is bad, and nobody can reply to that with a different position that clarifies or make disappear the concern, then the policy shouldn't pass, and was only one person against the policy. In the opposite, if there is there are no concerns, nobody has anything to say about the policy, and there are no strong supporters or something, anyway, if there is nothing against the policy, then a policy should pass. So that to have that clear is important, and to respond a previous comment, is not enough that the chairs have it clear, because people change, and if people change things different, it's better to have it written. And people following a process that is written is better than people doing what they think is correct in a specific moment. It's better to have it on paper, saying that the process shows that exactly as it is. So personally, I will recommend to change a little the mindset. We did that at LACNIC already, and LACNIC and APNIC have the most similar process, the policy development process. And I think this change improves the quality of the process. However, there is something that has not been solved in our region, and this region is the participation in the list and in the forum sometimes, because the hands up, for example, are 3, 4, 5, 6, no more than 10 in some cases, and that's a very low participation, for example, in the policy forum. And sometimes in the list is also 2 or 3 comments about a policy. So also a call that we are trying to do also in our region is to try to improve that, to more people participating, saying if they have a concern to express it in the list. If some people has something to add or support, to make it clear, just if you like the policy, put something in the mailing list so it's clear that there is people supporting that. So this policy should go. We had the same concern with the time, so also we didn't approve the change in the time in the policy, because also we consider that the time is necessary, at least 4 weeks, but the rest was approved by LACNIC and a lot of support. Once it was clarified what consensus is, it was easy to approve.
Thank you for your clarification. I'm afraid we start to run out of time, so I'll have the last comment. Either side. You're the last 2.
Okay, I was here to make a comment on the step 1, but since Jody is not changing it, I'll keep my comments for myself. But I'd like to share the Secretariat point of view in case if that point comes up again. From the Secretariat, once the proposal is submitted, we do need a few days' time to put it back to the chairs, for the edition, and also prepare the websites that you see, the mailing list, everything, announcements, etc. So if it's gone back to 1 week discussion, I think I'll come up again here. On the second point of consensus process, it's clearly defined in the PDP, graphically as well. We have 2 graphs on the PDP section there that clearly defines that the chairs do consider the consensus in the mailing list, the SIG and the AMM, and put it back on the mailing list again. But if it's not clear, we can make it very explicitly clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A quick one. Like in the morning, I said that we go back to the first one. We go back to the first slide. Yep. When a proposal is given to the SIG chair or to the policy SIG, it becomes a property of the policy SIG till the time the author informs the policy SIG that he wants to withdraw. If that is so, what should happen is the policy SIG thereafter sends it to the APNIC Secretariat to do the actions which Sunny just mentioned. But importantly, another action, that is that the APNIC Secretariat gets time to go through the proposal and comment upon each point which the proposal makes. Reason is that there will be certain laws, bylaws, rules, regulations, data which needs to be verified, checked and commented upon, so that members, when they are formulating their opinion, are better informed. So once that portion has been done, so that is going to take time. It is not going to finish in 1 week. So 4-week period is fine, right? Second, coming on to the first one only. Now, here it says that the proposal will need to be resubmitted in time if the author still wants it. I would suggest that once a proposal is with Policy SIG, then if it has come late, fine, it will come up at a later date. It is for the Policy SIG to decide when it will come up. But there is no need for the author to again resubmit it, but let it carry on till the author writes to Policy SIG to withdraw it. Otherwise, it should get into the cycle and carry on for discussions, for mailing list and other things, instead of it being resubmitted. I would like to see if that amendment can be brought in. I go ahead with the appeals because, yes, in any system, transparent system, appeals is a must, and appeals should be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So because you removed the first part of your proposal, we are going to step two directly for the consensus call on the floor. So
I am not sure if it's possible, but maybe it's good to have the slides up so the people can think while, I don't know, it's up to you. But oh, you cannot make it because, okay. Okay. Right.
I'm waiting for Confer to come online. Do you want me to do it? Okay, so everybody should be connected to the Confer now and express their opinions. So on the floor, if you strongly support the step 2 of the PDP update, please raise your hand. Can you put the text back on?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the thing. The people don't
because yeah, I've got the text here, so but
put the slides again, and I will be changing them if needed.
There it is.
Okay. So here, this one.
So yeah, it was about the consensus on both the mailing list and the floor. So again, who strongly supports this step 2? Who supports this proposal? Who is neutral? Who oppose this proposal? And for the last one, if you strongly oppose, you'll have to stand and express yourself. So who strongly oppose this proposal? Okay. So this step 2 didn't reach consensus. I would say you should put it back on the mailing list and wait for further comments to improve it. Step 3.
Slides.
It's about the MM. Ah, yes, Craig?
Sorry, hello? Step 3 in relation to the appeals process. Sorry to interrupt you, but may I read out a statement that was sent to me by Gaurav, the APNIC chair, just his input. The statement from Gaurav is this. The appeals process seems to be a solution looking for a problem. The APNIC EC are representatives of the community and fully observe the process and has a record of sending back policy to the community when it has judged that the community standards haven't been met. So the appeals process may just be adding redundant item while trying to remove the discussions at the AMM, which serves the same purpose, but to the wider community, and it is too late. What he meant is that if the policy goes through, then just send it back to the Policy SIG. I hope that makes sense.
Yep. Thanks, Gaurav. So, call for consensus for the step 3. Confers online? Okay. Who strongly supports the step 3 of this proposal? About removing the AMM need? No one, okay. Who supports this proposal? Who is neutral? Who oppose this proposal? And then again, for the last one, if you strongly oppose, you'll have to stand up and express your opinion clearly. Who strongly opposed this proposal? Thank you all. So this proposal didn't reach consensus, and I suggest Jordi to put it back on the mailing list for further comments. And I encourage everyone who had expressed his opinion today to do it again on the mailing list so that Jordi can modify it accordingly. And I guess that's it for the Policy SIG session. It's time to have lunch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.